It was during one of our regular visits to Brighton during the year 2004 that I realised that I'd been coming here for 55 years. A lifetime. My first visit to Brighton was in Easter 1949 with my parents and my sister. On that occasion we didn't actually stay in Brighton itself, but in the village of Rottingdean, a few miles down the coast. There was a hotel there called the Tudor Close. It's now a block of flats, but then it was quite a nice hotel. It had a swimming pool, which was pretty cold at Easter, but nevertheless my sister and I did swim in it. We weren't bothered about that sort of thing in those days. The real reason for our coming was because my father opened a branch of his fur business at 103 Western Road, Brighton. In those days the fur business was perfectly respectable. It wasn't politically incorrect as it is today. Furs were sold in guineas and they attracted purchase tax. There was a big showroom at the back of the shop. We had a manager, Mr. Silsby, and a manageress, Miss Day. This is Mr. Silsby on the right. I'm afraid he left under a bit of a cloud. In those days we used to stay at the Bedford Hotel on the seafront, where Charles Dickens once stayed. It was burned down some years ago, and this is its modern equivalent, the Hilton Brighton West Pier. Quite a monstrosity with a block of flats built on top of it. The black and white films I took with my father's 9.5mm cine camera don't translate well to video, but you can certainly recognise the West Pier as it was, and the Grand Hotel, now somewhat enlarged since the efforts of the Brighton bombers. And the Volk Electric Railway, billed as the world's first electric railway, as much as it is now. Before Mr. Silsby's fall from grace, we used to stay at his house in Patcham when he went on holiday, and a school friend of mine and my cousin Lillian came down to stay with us. My mother used to call going for windy walks in Brighton and its vicinity being done good to. After Mr. Silsby's ignominious departure, we used to stay in a small mews flat off Marine Parade. My mother called it the hole in the wall. It's still there with an impressive set of gates and looking a lot smarter than it was in our day in the late 50s. Here are my mother and my sister Carolyn calling round to pick up my grandmother from the guest house where she was staying with her lifelong companion Auntie Susan. You'll see my grandmother in front, and in a minute Auntie Susan emerges with the hat. Auntie Susan seemed to enjoy her trips to Brighton, but I'm not sure my grandmother did.
It's lovely on Hove Beach, don't you think so?
You'll have gathered from Auntie Susan's comment that although we were staying near Marine Parade, we quite often used to drive over to Hove to use the beach there. It was more convenient, and there were cafes where they would sell you cups of tea which you could take down to the beach on a tray. Then, as now, the Palace Pier had its attractions. exchanged the cold seawater for the even colder water at the Black Rock swimming pool. But that's now gone. It's part of the site of the marina. In 1963 my father closed down the fur shop and I stopped coming to Brighton regularly. But in 1969 Diana's parents rented a flat at Embassy Court, a block on the seafront on the border between Brighton and Hove. It looked pretty run down by the time you see it here at the end of 2003, but in 1969 it was pretty smart. By this time Nigel and Catherine had arrived, and it was really convenient having a base so near the shops, the West Pier and the beach. There used to be a boating pool near the West Pier, but I'm afraid its time is up. It's now a pétanque terrain. And the paddling pool where Nigel and Catherine took their first tentative steps in the water has also been replaced by a skateboarding area, but at least they've reconstructed the paddling pool the other side of the West Pier. After years of neglect, finally they started refurbishing Embassy Court during the middle of 2004. Sadly, the same can't be said for the poor old West Pier, which has continued to deteriorate. And as if fire damage wasn't enough, a severe storm in the spring of 2004 caused a further collapse to the West Pier, and the withdrawal of lottery money. So the pier as it used to be has become literally a flickering memory. And it's easy to forget there were lots of activities on the pier, such as these roundabouts. Luckily, the area around the dilapidated pier has become a bit of a magnet for other activities, including my favourite bookstall. During all my early visits to Brighton, there used to be a seafront bus service, the number 17, that ran all the way from Rottingdean to Hove. Now there are open-top tourist buses, and that's not really quite the same thing. Brighton and Hove are now a city, and the council has taken considerable steps to tidy up the seafront. All the same, if you look carefully, you can find the occasional whelk stall and other traditional activities. When my parents-in-law decided to buy a flat in Brighton, the porter at Embassy Court warned them off because of its structural problems, and instead they bought one here at Flag Court in Hove in 1973. Partly as a result of the move to Hove, we used to spend much more time at the Hove Lagoon. Well, the lagoon is certainly still there, although the activities have changed. Walking back to Flag Court from the lagoon, you pass the King Alfred swimming pool complex. This is the building that housed the old major pool and minor pool I visited in the 50s. And this is the newer building, already looking a bit tired and possibly scheduled for redevelopment as part of a tower block. And the Monaghan Dam Diamond Factory, also awaiting redevelopment. And just next door, overlooking the beach where we used to sit with my grandmother and Auntie Susan and my parents, Morocco's Ice Cream Parlour, famous for its delicious soft ice cream. In 2002, Flag Court took on a special significance as the base from which the family set out for Gareth and Amanda's wedding in Brighton's Middle Street Synagogue. It's very gratifying that the Flag Court flat is still very popular with our children now they're in their 30s, just as it was when they were young in the 70s and 80s. So that's my Brighton. I haven't shown you a number of things. The Royal Pavilion, the theatre, the shops. Well, I was only interested in the camera shops anyway, and most of those are closed. But it's still full of activities we all enjoy, including, not least, the jazz outside English's restaurant in East Street.